People feel richer by pumping up their 401ks, their retirement accounts, and they spend more. And for a decade, it worked. Wall Street got rich, Main Street saw cheap prices, but then COVID happened. The Fed's balance sheet then exploded from $4.3 trillion to over $7 trillion in just 3 months. It peaked near $9 trillion in 2022, and this time, inflation didn't stay quiet. In 2020, inflation was barely above 1%, but by 2022, it peaked at 9%. For the first time since the early 80s, we had a real consumer price inflation problem. Why? What changed? Well, if you're following along, it was government spending. In 2020, federal spending hit 31% of GDP, the highest since World War II. Stimmy checks, unemployment benefits, PPP loans, trillions were pumped directly into the economy. And sure, yes, there was a crisis, but 5 years later, spending is still at 23% of GDP. I mean, compare that to the 2010s when it ran around 20 to 21% of the economy, right? The government ran deficits close to 15% of GDP in 2020 and 2021, the largest peacetime deficits since World War II. Now, that money went straight into people's pockets. Stimulus, real spending in the real economy. And here's the difference. In the 2010s, the Fed did QE, but federal spending was restrained, right? Money stayed in the financial system, so we only got asset inflation. But after COVID, the Fed did QE and the government opened up the fiscal floodgates. So this caused money to flood into the real economy. Demand surged, consumer prices inflated, and we're still running that playbook. Spending is still 23% of GDP. Deficits still around $2 trillion. The Fed basically is now left with two options. Option one, don't restart QE. Let repo rates climb. Let funding rates stay expensive. What happens? Well, companies can't roll their debts. Banks can't balance their books. The plumbing seizes like 2008. Now, when this happened in March of 2020, the Fed launched 9 emergency programs in just weeks because the Fed knew what happens when funding dries up. Option one, it leads to a massive financial crisis. But they have even less ammunition today. You see, back in 2007, rates were at 5.25%, and the balance sheet was under $1 trillion. Today, rates are already lower at 4%, and the balance sheet's now at $6.7 trillion. So they've already used the bazooka. And this isn't bad mortgages that you can just like ring fence and roll over, right? This is structural government spending. $2 trillion deficits with no end in sight. You can't bail your way out of that. And so if option one is really bad,